Hi, I'm Eleanor Meyerhofer, a native Californian, designer, and digital strategist. In October of 1999, a few years after graduating from design school, I flew from San Francisco to Munich with a fistful of Deutschmarks, a dial-up connection, and an extremely vague plan. 20 plus years later, after a 10-year stint at a global agency, freelancing, and launching 2 online businesses, I'm still here. Now I'm talking to other expat business owners to share knowledge, stories, and inspiration for other non-Germans running businesses in Germany. Oh, so I am here with Jen Canale of Higgins Aleworks. And Jen, I'm going to kick it off with the question I ask everyone on this podcast, which is, can you tell me the 2-minute story of how you ended up in Germany?
Hi. Yes, I sure can. Thanks, Eleanor. Thanks for inviting me to the podcast. I'm really very, very honored to be part of this niche group of people. Yeah. So my husband and I came to Munich in 2003 for his job, kind of a classic expat story. And after about a year of looking for work, I finally landed a really great position with an American company, a software company that had a European headquarters here.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a really good fit for my skill set. They were very happy to have a Native American uh, English speaker
Mm-hmm.
in the team, which of course contributed to my very slow absorption of the German language.
I can relate.
Yes. And we expected to be here just for a couple of years, but felt very comfortable. We liked the culture, we liked the city, the location. So here we are 20 years later. And somewhere in there, we decided that we were really missing craft beer
Okay.
because, of course, this is the beer capital of the world. And the beer is very good, but it's not very diverse. So slowly but surely, we started to pursue that passion. And we founded Higgins Aleworks in 2018.
Okay. And just real quick, where in the States are you guys from?
We're from New Jersey.
Okay. Okay.
Mhm.
So East Coast, it's still a trek home, but not that far.
Not too bad. Yeah, if we can get a direct flight, we're always happy.
Okay. Well, okay, so you started not a diverse beer scene. So the irony of me living in Germany is I'm not really a big beer drinker.
Hmm.
So can you tell me a little bit about the beer scene not being diverse here, like what that means?
Sure. I mean, the German beer, of course, is famous, obviously for all the right reasons. The quality is great. The volume is huge. It's the biggest producer in Europe and probably worldwide. Um, Maybe outside of the US. But and the beer styles are typically Helles and lagers and Dunkles and wheat beer. Those are, at least in Bavaria,
Mhm.
those are the predominant beer styles. And of course, in there are other areas within Germany, such as Franconia or Bamberg, where they do more specialized beer styles that are very, very unique. But it's still somewhat traditional, right?
Mm.
The recipes, and what you don't see, or what we didn't find for many, many years, were the things that we were getting used to in the US, which was IPAs, India Pale Ales, American Pale Ale styles, cream ales. So more top fermented beers that have, um, uh, let's say, a more intensive hop profile because of the hop varieties that are used from different parts of the world, as
Okay.
well as yeast and malt. But other things go into the beer, but that's kind of a key differentiator in the beer styles, I would say, between a traditional German beer and a craft beer. Let's say an American style craft beer. That it's the American style is more hop intensive in the flavor profile, which gives fruit flavors and herbally flavors. So things that you wouldn't get such a strong taste in a traditional German beer.
Okay. So you guys said, "You know what? We really miss these IPAs. Why don't we just start making them ourselves here?"
Kind of, yeah. I mean, my husband was a hobby brewer in the States. So that's
Okay.
that's
Okay.
where the passion started. And from the very first moment that we met, I was drinking his craft beers, and then we were visiting craft breweries all across the U.S. This is in the 90s, so it was still relatively a young market, even in the U.S. Today, there's over 10,000 craft breweries in the U.S.
Wow.
So in a 30-year period, it's really just exploded. But here, I always say it's kind of like 1998
Okay.
back in the States. You know, it's a
So
little bit
many
we're still
things.
in a pioneer
Yeah.
phase, and, there are craft breweries here, of course, and have been for the better part of 10 years, growing slowly. You know, we get a new brewery or a new taproom or some new aspect within the industry, each year. But it's definitely a different market.
Okay. So one of the questions I had is you guys have a tap room in Max
Yes.
Vorstadt.
Right.
Um the idea and in business, it's like, this is not something you're doing in your basement and just having friends over in your living room. Can you tell me about the process of establishing a business that involves beer and consumables? That just seems to me really difficult.
It would seem a bit overwhelming, right?
Yeah.
In this place of location of all places. It is the main reason why we started very slowly, very conservatively, very incrementally, step by step with testing recipes. We didn't just open the doors and turn on the taps. We
Mhm.
really took our time. We had the luxury of time. We started really small, just first as a hobby. Paul and his friend, who's now our brewer, Bob, he's from California, but he's been here 20 years as well. They started hobby brewing together, working on recipes that they had both done individually. And together, bringing that East Coast, West Coast together was quite a nice fit. And so we started by having a couple of events, inviting other craft brewers to taste our beer. Ultimately, we worked our way to doing festivals, local festivals, and just to get the feedback from, before we made any real investments in the equipment and location. And the feedback was 100% positive. So that was very encouraging. And then we decided, okay, let's buy a small system. And the key was the location. So
Mhm.
we were incredibly lucky. When we rented the space to start the hobby brewing, it was in the basement of a building, and that basement had been a former production bakery.
Okay.
And little did we know that a bakery is automatically genehmigt or allowed to have a brewery
Oh my god.
because you have the yeast and the malt and all. And we didn't even know this for ages, for the first, year probably. And it wasn't until we decided that, okay, we're going to take the next step and get a commercial system. And my husband, Paul Higgins, went to the referat multiple times to find out what kind of genehmigung did we have to get for this space. And they couldn't answer it. They were confused. And finally, we realized it's because they finally said, Mr. Higgins, it's already allowed. You don't have to do anything. And we were shocked. I mean, so there's a bit of luck involved in that. And also the owner of the building, it was his family that had the bakery. And he ultimately rented us the entire basement. So we were in a space that was scalable
Ah,
to
okay.
expand. It still has size limitations. We have to use an ancient elevator to get equipment downstairs, so that limits the size of the tanks and the actual suit house that we have because it has to fit in the elevator to get down there. So that's why things are still really on a small scale.
Okay. And okay, so that is some amazing dumb luck. I mean, wow. Um, but did you have to, like, have a permit for serving people beer and, like, a Meister brief or whatever, like a Meister brewer
It's a
thing?
good question, because, this is a
Yeah.
very heavy
Mhm.
certification-oriented country.
Yeah.
Ironically, it is not required, to have a brew master, um, at our scale, at our
Okay.
size. Um, we do actually have a brewmaster working for us now, but at the beginning, that wasn't really a requirement. There is a requirement to have a license to sell beer.
Mhm.
This is an area that I've never really gotten good clarification on. There is a certain allotment of beer Alshank that a brewery can do
Mhm.
from the premises
Mhm.
without anything extra.
Mhm.
But as soon as you move it to another location, that's a different story.
Like a bigger location or
Or no,
just
like if you were to sell it in a tap room or to sell it outside of the brewery, let's say,
okay.
outside of the brewery location. And for us, the tap room is literally next door, but it's not the
Uh,
same building. It's not the same landlord. Luckily, again, that was a former Kneipe, like a German little
yeah,
German
yeah.
pub stube, and had we just took over the existing license. So that again was
Oh, so you could like it's like a tax that you could buy out the license of the
it
Kneipe?
comes with the location. It's
Okay.
just, audit,
Interesting. Okay.
and again, it's another huge amount of luck. A lot of locations for gastro in Munich have uh, a lease with the big six breweries. So they're the landlords, I guess, effectively. So that's why most of the Wirtshauses and the restaurants and cafes you see that do sell liquor or beer are selling Spaten or Löwenbräu or Augustiner because they're tied to them.
Uh-huh.
And there are very few places, I don't know what the percentage is, but there are not too many actual bars or pubs that are called Brauerei frei. But ours
Okay.
ours was.
Okay. And so if you wanted to do something like start bottling it, it'd be a whole different order of magnitude of things you'd have to do?
Well, no, we were able to package on the premises in the brewery, and we still do package. We actually sell predominantly from the tap and in the tap room. That's probably 85% of what we sell, and the rest we do to go. So we package it in 0.33 liter cans. We
Okay.
started with bottles, but we really wanted to stick to the American style look
Yeah,
and feel.
okay.
And
Okay.
cans for us, I mean, cans are very controversial here from a
Oh,
recycling
really?
standpoint. Germans are very anti aluminum can, and in general,
Yeah.
bottles are let's say a cleaner recycling, but
Okay.
cans are much lighter. So from a
Mhm.
standpoint, from an energy standpoint of the space it takes up in the fridge, and
Mhm.
they're better for us at our size. It's a much easier packaging for us.
Okay. But can you, like, sell them to, like, be a wholesaler to
Yeah,
Reve and so
yeah,
okay, so you can do all that.
yeah. Well, we do not sell to Reve and supermarkets, and I'm not
Okay.
really sure what that entails, but we sell to Getränk markets a few, but
Mhm.
very few. We like I said, we do since we've had the tap room, we sell almost everything ourselves from our tap room. But there's a couple of restaurants and cafes and a couple of Getränk markets here in Munich that will have our beer
Okay.
available.
Okay.
And
And
that's,
you
we package it ourselves. We do everything in the brewery.
okay.
So
You
that's
have you
all.
have the can filling machine or whatever
We have
it is.
lots of stuff down there. It's a
Okay.
little overwhelming.
Okay.
We bought a secondhand canner that was handmade by another craft brewer here. When they upgraded, we bought their little. I think it's a two-head canner. So everything we're doing is very labor intensive, very manual process.
Mhm.
Um, but that's all part of the story.
Okay, and is this do you still have these other jobs, like software jobs, or is this your main thing
I do
now?
not. I do not.
Okay.
This is my main gig. For Paul, he is still working his original job that brought him over here. This project goes just is carrying on, and it's great. But he works part time on that project and pretty much full time with the brewery.
Okay.
He just
Okay.
works all the time.
Okay. Okay. And with the tap room,
Yeah.
so what's that like? So are you open all the time? Do you have to market it a lot? Does it spread by word of mouth? How did
Yeah.
you get traction for selling the beer?
That's a great question. Actually, when the pandemic hit, it
Oh,
was somewhat, I hate to say beneficial, but it
oh.
forced us forward. We either had it, we made it, we weren't packaging yet. We were still sort of tiptoeing into the whole um, process. And we then suddenly had, for us, it was a fair amount of beer inventory with nowhere to put it, nowhere to
Mm.
sell it. No bars were open. So that's when we started to bottle. And we also did uh, crowlers, which that's a special American style takeaway can. It's like a 750 milliliter can, and we would fill those cans and sell it to the neighbors. And we basically were selling to the neighbors and the community all through the pandemic. And that was the way that we started to build up kind of a local customer base. And while we were there, so we had the brewery, we had rented an office, and right in between the brewery and the office was this Kneipe.
Mhm.
This that was kind of fading. It'd been there for many, many years. And I think it was after the second or third lockdown they didn't come back. So I started to contact the Besitzer, the
Mhm.
Eigentümer, to say, "Hey, we're here
Mhm.
and we'd like to take it over. You just let us know." And ultimately that's what happened. That's what they did. They called us and said, "Okay, you can rent it."
Okay. Okay.
So it's kind of like the real estate market here, especially for commercial and gastro, is crazy expensive,
Yeah.
hard to find. If it's been, posted in Immo Scout or one of those, it's already
It's
gone
already too late.
usually.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
exactly. So you really have to have your ear to the ground. You have to have your eyes wide open and see what's happening. Talk to people for sure. You have to
Yeah.
talk to the local businesses. If you see an empty storefront that looks appealing, ask a neighbor or go in and try to find the house for Veltong information in the lobby. All that stuff is
Mhm.
very, you just have to be a bit tenacious with
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's really how we got the tap room, and it was the perfect location being right next door. Um,
Okay.
I mean, we still have to schlep kegs up and down from the brewery over, but it's fine. And it's a small space. It seats about 25. With a bit of standing room. But again, given our size, we have a 200-liter system. Um, it's the perfect size for us for right now.
Okay. I wanna just quickly go back to selling beer to your neighbors in the pandemic, like,
Uh-huh.
kind of like a beer speakeasy. How did you like, what did that look like? Did you, like, leave flyers around, knock on people's doors, say
We use the office. So the office that we rented, it's on a corner, and it's got three big um, display windows.
Mhm.
So we were just in there all the time, and we had all of our branding going on, the
Mhm.
logos, the
Mhm.
posters, banners. And, on the weekends, we would offer a time to come in and pick
Okay.
up your to go, and that's how it worked. They saw us, they found us, it was word of mouth.
And they
People
put
would always say, "What's going on in here?" And, yeah,
Ah.
so we were just sort of, there and present.
And would they put their order in on, like, your website and then
No, just, yeah,
or
I
just
had a fridge right in there, and, we
okay.
could sell a lot of stuff right out of the fridge, or, we had certain times for picking up your Crowler cans. Refills were always done on Saturdays, so they would come on Saturdays to get their cans. So we just sort of did it very, organically, I
So it's
guess you would
yeah,
say.
okay, so foot traffic, seeing you guys there.
Yeah.
That's
Mhm.
okay, okay,
And of course, people we had a captive audience, they had nowhere to go and nothing to
yeah,
do.
yeah.
So this was like their big outing, was to go pick up their beer. And then, of course, we'd stand and chat and maybe taste some beer, and,
Mhm.
it kinda grew that way.
Also, alcohol in the pandemic. A friend of ours, he's German. Well, his mom's American, but he's basically German, and he has a bunch of startups, and he started this one. I'll give him a shout out. They're called Wir Winzer, and it's a site that has they went around to all these, like, small German wine producers, and this was years ago, and they were, like, really skeptical, and they're like, "No, no, we'll have a website, and, like, people can order direct from you, blah, blah, blah." And, like, it went through the it, like, hockey sticked in the pandemic because everybody was just, like, needing to drink.
We had a bit of that. Now the other
Yeah.
thing that there's 2 other things and I speaking of shout outs, I have to give one to Tillman's Beer, because Tillman's, they just had their 10-year anniversary, so they've got, they were one of the real pioneers in the craft beer scene, and, as soon as the pandemic hit, they started a courier service because they had a lot of beer to move as
Oh,
well. But then they offered to pick up beer from all of us, from all the little brewers. And that's what got us into packaging, bottling, and canning because we said, oh, this is a great opportunity. We've got to do that. So that really helped our brand get more, more, yeah,
known.
no, and thank
Yeah,
you.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So, and then the other thing that we did were we did a lot of virtual tastings, online beer
Oh,
tastings.
right, right,
Yeah.
right.
So we were doing that probably 2, 3 times a month.
Okay,
Yeah. So
okay,
that really helped too. So, and that I was able to lean into my network a bit. Obviously, all the years that I worked in software here, I developed quite a good network, as well as the American German Business Club.
right.
I would like to give them a recognition because I've been a member of that club for a long, long time, long before I became an entrepreneur, but started really leaning into them too.
Mhm.
And they've been a big support, a really big support, which is how you and I met,
Yeah,
actually.
yeah, yeah. I
So,
see you in the newsletter there every
hmm
month.
right.
And did you, so you, like, would ship the people the beers, and then you'd have the beer tastings,
Yeah,
like,
mostly we did
Zoom?
local tastings, so they'd come pick it up or I would deliver it,
Okay,
and then we would get on Zoom. Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
And is your distribution pretty much local, or is it
Yes.
Germany-wide? Okay,
Totally local. I mean, hardly
okay,
even not really outside of Munich even.
okay, okay.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and do you wanna keep it that way, or do you have ambitions to, like, branch out to Bavaria and then one
I
day
would
all
like
of
to
the
branch out, but I have to get my head around what does distribution look like so that it's profitable.
Yeah.
That's I mean, of course, you need it for marketing and branding, but it's a much tougher market than it used to be. I mean, that was for some brewers, maybe 8, 10 years ago, that was like their main model, and it didn't work out. So it's much better to sell direct from the tap.
To the consumer. Okay.
Yeah.
So, okay, let's talk about the tap room. So who are the people coming in? Like, is it full all the time? How do you said, like, word of mouth, but, like, is it mostly foreigners?
It's a good mix. So we do. I have we have a website. We use social media. Um, I use LinkedIn a little bit now. Want to do more LinkedIn promotion. But the tap room does Google Maps too. Google is a great source because obviously tourists and expats who are looking for craft beer just put it into Google and we pop up.
Ah,
Right,
okay.
right.
Yeah.
We also yeah, so to answer your question, I would say it was probably in the first year, so we're now 2 years behind us with the tap room. Um, Probably 60% tourists and expats, 40% locals. And now we see that the local numbers are going up, which is great. And I think that that's more from word of mouth. You know, a question I have for you is that so far, almost all the marketing that we've done and outreach has been only in English.
Mhm.
So I do have concerns about what we might be missing from the local market by not advertising in German. But I've heard pros and cons about like having your website in both languages, and I haven't really dug deeply into that. What's your take?
Yeah, that's interesting. I feel like, I mean, just, like, shooting from the hip, my approach would be, yeah, you could always, I mean, it's depending on the tool you use, it's fine to have a multilingual website, and, if people are actually going into Google and searching, although that does sound like more of a tourist thing, just my intuition says that, if I'm a tourist, I'm gonna try type in craft beer. I
Right.
would go the PR angle and try to get placements in, like, the Sud for example, or München mit Vergnügen or one of those
Yeah.
places,
Yeah.
and then you would want to have a multilingual site, so because that would be jarring probably to go to
I
the
think
site and see
that's
it all in English.
yeah.
So, probably that would be your first step is to have some kind of, or even just a landing page in German,
Exactly.
something so
Yeah.
that people could go and get the main info and, you
Yeah.
know, do that. But yeah, that would be my first impulse, or partnerships or festivals,
Yeah, we
all
do the
this. Yeah, I'm sure you
festivals
do that
and
stuff.
yeah, yeah, and yeah, we do, yeah, we definitely the I guess the locals that are coming in, they probably have read about us. There've been a couple of articles, in the Süddeutsche, which was great.
Okay, so you
That
did have
happened
that.
last year.
Yeah.
We did have that. And there are some other publications, small
Yeah.
publications that have featured us. And, sometimes they come in with a brochure, and I've never even seen or heard of this
Yeah.
brochure, but we're in it like, "Okay, good." So, yeah, that's good advice. I'll
You
think
guys
of
could
that.
also try, like, having an event and putting it on Eventbrite and doing it in German.
Yeah, that's another good one,
Yeah.
definitely. Yeah, we're actually doing an event, and events are actually are a big draw for, a way for us to draw more people in. So we're doing an event on Thursday at Spoon Up Spice Bar, which is a cafe on the Weissenberger Platz. And before we had a tap room, we did a few summer events there because the
Mhm.
location is just great. And of course, Christiana and her team who run the Spice Bar, super. And we ran into her, ironically, in Berlin a few weeks back, and we said, we kind of miss doing those events. And so we're going to do one on Thursday night, and hopefully the weather will be nice. So we just bring a couple of beers and a couple of taps and our glasses and serve right from there. It's just a nice change of location, change of scenery.
Right up there
Yeah.
by Rosenheimer Platz.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
Right.
that's,
Right.
yeah, that's a
She's
nice,
right on the circle,
little,
right?
yeah,
You
yeah,
just
yeah.
looking at the fountain, and it's a
Oh,
really
perfect.
nice summer evening kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll do that. And we're also going to participate in the Giesinger Brewery has a great craft beer festival in July, and
Okay.
it's 12th and 13th, and it's at their bigger location in Wirksvai, it's called. And we're actually going to host a master class and do a beer tasting in their tap room on the Saturday, but as well as have a booth and serve the
Okay.
beer. And
Okay.
there's 20 other brewers there,
Wait,
mostly local.
sorry, everybody, there's a little local inside baseball here, but if you're not in Munich. But so wait, is this the one right at the top of the Giesinger Berg across, or
No,
somewhere
that's
else?
their
Okay.
original location. Well,
Okay.
not their original location was a garage, but
Okay.
they're kind of a good model that we look
Yeah.
at. That was their let's say first commercial location, and their second location that they opened, I think it was in 2020, which is where they brew Helles, their Helles, and it's
Okay.
it's out near Milbertshofen direction.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah,
So not
yeah.
actually in Giesing anymore. Okay.
Not using anymore, but still within the city, because they are trying to get into the Oktoberfest and get their own tent.
Oh, god, that must be really hard.
That is
Breaking into that
monumentally hard.
mafia.
That's a big
Well, we
task.
we all wish them good luck.
We do, we do.
Before we move on, I wanna ask you about the Reinheitsgebot.
Oh, yeah.
But I'm curious because my main social media platform is LinkedIn, and I was surprised to hear that you do some marketing there. What was your thinking there, and how
Well,
has
I
it
used
been?
that so exclusively when I was in the business world,
Mhm.
and, I have hundreds of contacts, and I just
Mhm.
thought many of them are local, and I thought there's a whole untapped,
No pun
potential there
intended.
that I haven't really yeah. Indeed. I'm gonna use the word fermented,
Yeah.
yeah, but really a lot of potential there. So, and
Okay.
I do get a good bit of traction. A lot of people view, what I don't want to, overdo it. I don't
Yeah.
wanna saturate it, but
Mhm.
if it's like, for example, the last posting I did there was about our 2-year anniversary, and that was a
Mhm.
big taproom anniversary, and that was a big party. And a lot of people came. It was great. So,
Okay. Okay. I
yeah,
don't think we're connected there. I'll have to reach
we
out.
will be within the hour.
Exactly. Um, so one
Reinheitsgebot.
one last okay, but one last question.
Sure.
But let me take a sip of this. Mm. Excuse me. Um, can you rent the tap room for private events?
We occasionally, occasion.
Okay.
Yeah. We are open Wednesday through Saturday, and I don't really like to close it for private events. So if it's a Tuesday,
Mhm.
for example, we actually we do beer and craft beer and whiskey tastings,
Mhm.
and we host that in the tap room on Tuesday evenings. So my goal is to get more incremental things in there on a Tuesday, where maybe I don't have to staff the bar all night,
Okay.
but
Okay.
I've got
Okay. So
a guaranteed thing. But yes,
in theory. Okay.
in
And
theory,
the whiskey and beer, are they together?
yeah, great.
Oh my goodness. I was saying wine and was it no wine and beer never sicker. No, wine and liquor never sicker, but I guess it works out for most
It works
people.
out great. It works out
Okay.
fine. We actually hosted together with Nick Walker from the
Yeah, that's was
OGBC,
my guess. Yeah.
and he is the best, most knowledgeable person about Scottish whiskey, and he tells wonderful stories about the distilleries, the origin, the way it's distilled, all the different steps in the process, and really, it's really a
Mhm.
seminar.
Okay.
And he knows our beer, and so he'll take a look at our tap list, and he can pair anything with our beer.
Wow.
It's great.
Okay.
And we get great feedback, and so we're taking a little pause for summer because it's not really whiskey weather, but
Mhm.
we'll start again in the fall.
Okay. Okay. So stay
Yeah,
tuned, everybody. All
yeah.
right. Tell me about the Reinheitsgebot and what it is and how it affects your process.
Okay. Well, it is the German purity law for brewing beer, which
Mhm.
was created in 1516, and it is still in effect, and it is mostly cared about here in Munich and Bavaria by the traditional brewers.
Mhm.
Um, I t- I don't think that it's really adhered to as strictly elsewhere.
Mhm.
And what it means is that beer can only be made from well, it was originally three ingredients, which is the water, hops, and barley. Yeast came into play a little bit later, although yeast was always involved in brewing, but it became part of the regulations for the keeping a beer pure. And I'm not sure exactly when, but it was modified a little bit to allow for other types of malted things for specifically for wheat beer, for the production of wheat beer. And the thing is, I mean, we really like that we kind of accept the challenge. Now, let me backtrack by saying in America and many other places where IPAs and pale ales, New England style ales, all these different styles are made. It's quite common to throw different things into the beer, like fruit and maybe coffee or chocolate or things like that to enhance different flavors, particularly hops notes can really be enhanced by that sort of thing. And so here, that would not really be allowed.
Mhm.
You can do it and not call it beer. That's one way. And I
Mhm.
think if you, let's say, we make a pumpkin beer every year, obviously,
Mhm.
pumpkin ale, and that has got everything. Everything you'd find in an American
It's a
pumpkin pie is in
like a
that beer.
pumpkin spice latte, but just a beer.
Exactly. But when we sell it, we don't sell it as beer. We call it an alcoholic drink off from a malt basis. And I think if we, I believe if we were to make that as a regular flagship beer in large quantities, we would certainly have to get that approved by
Okay.
the Lebensmittel people.
Okay.
So that's a different thing. So again, we have the benefit of being small and doing like a single batch of a pumpkin ale at 200 liters is not
Mhm.
much. Um, yeah, but for us, we really enjoy pushing the flavors, but
Mhm.
staying within those limitations.
Mhm.
So more than 90% of what we brew in a given year is within the purity regulations.
Okay.
And the only times that we stray is, like I said, if we do a seasonal beer like a pumpkin or a chocolate stout, or we'll be brewing a beer with elderflower coming up soon.
Mhm.
So those, there's like five maybe in a year that don't.
And that's gonna be
if you're
called an ill like an
alcoholische
elderflower
Getränkekaufmannsbasis.
You
But of
know?
course, and then you have to be extremely transparent with the zutaten, and
Yeah,
especially, for if it's got flour or fruit or chocolate, you got to
yeah.
call that out on the label for sure.
This explains a lot. Okay, it's the context of beer, but whenever I go back home to California, I'm always amazed, like, "Ooh, what's this? A cronut. Oh, kimchi tacos. Oh," they're just like all that is one of the things I miss
Hmm.
about there's just people are always coming up with new stuff or weird flavors, and here I feel like it's slowly changing. People are being innovative around food, but it does seem like it takes so long, and maybe that's because or like, you go to street festival and every year it's like kinda the same stands, and I'm like, "Wha okay, why?" And the people I mean, there's an opportunity there because I feel like the people that find a way to come up with something new, they just crush it
Yeah.
because everybody wants that thing because it's not like in America where 15 other people are doing something new and weird and interesting. So I never understood if that was just a cultural thing or at least in the case of beer, now I know because also my parents, they live up in Sonoma County and
Mm.
in Northern California, and my dad was telling me he's also kinda not a big beer drinker, and he was like, "And it's really a shame because it's just the golden age of beer." Like, they're just all like, when you're saying chocolate and this, there's all kinds of and now the last time we were there, like, now the other thing is, like, cider, and there's a zillion
Oh,
kinds of
yeah.
cider.
Yeah.
And I just always come back and be like, "Why is nobody doing that here?" Like, if I was a gajillionaire, I would have all these different businesses just doing weird variation or maybe I wouldn't because the Reinheitsgebot.
Well, that's that. I mean, it definitely, the palates here are very conservative, traditional,
Mhm,
speaking to beer, but I think it does carry over into the gastro world a bit. And it is, you're right. I've seen in the last 5 years, maybe a lot more dynamic,
mhm,
diverse kind of food being offered. And again, it's the same for the beer too. I think it's a slow adoption process.
mhm,
But when we get German people who come into the tap room, for sure they're already curious and they already have an idea of what it may or may not taste like. And they say, well, is it, I don't want anything too bitter. And
mhm,
we do it. So and this is a credit to Paul and Bob who came up with the earliest recipes. They dial down the bitterness as much as possible for the local palates.
mm,
In the States, we probably go a little bit more. If we were doing this in the US, we'd go a little further, push the boat out, so to speak, with the flavors. But here we keep a little nice balance between malts and bitterness, and then adding fruits so that there's layers, and it's appealing to just about everybody. It's
mhm.
appealing to people who love craft beer and are looking for new things, as well as to people who've never had it or don't have much experience tasting it.
Okay, that's interesting. Actually, my husband's, cousin, her and her husband and their kids, they lived in California for a year. She's a biologist, and she was at UC Davis, and when they came back, they were just raving about the IPAs that they drank in California. So,
Yeah.
I think, the German clientele that you are getting, do they skew younger or hard to tell?
They're really all right in the middle. I'd say the average age is probably 40.
Okay,
It's
okay.
really, I mean, our overall demographic is between late 20s to late 40s.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, but the local people, yeah, that's 40 is about the average age for everybody. Yeah.
Okay.
But the tourists or the expats that come in, it's so funny. They often come in and they look at the board and their eyes light up like, "You have IPA? Oh, we've been drinking all this great German beer, but we really need an IPA now."
Okay, and then I'm gonna ask, like, a total, ignoramus question. So do you do things like make a Radler with an IPA, or is that, like, a total no-no, or do you just do the
We
straight
don't
beer?
I have on occasion done a couple
Yeah.
little experimental things, but no, we don't make radlers.
Okay.
We do sell an alcohol-free beer,
Mhm.
not by us, but by another brewery called Huffenhacker. They're in Perlock, on the other
Mhm.
south side of Munich,
Mhm.
and they make a very good alcohol-free beer. And it's, you know, the for sure, the trend overall in Germany is people are drinking less alcohol. They're
Mhm.
drinking less volume of beer than they have in the past. Used to be something like 100 liters per person a year, I think.
Mhm.
Um, and yeah, so alcohol-free options are definitely trending.
Yeah.
And we're going to look into that. Not making alcohol-free beers is kind of difficult because you really have to get it below 0.5%. It
Okay.
has to be below 0.5%, and that's very difficult to control.
Okay.
And the flavors are difficult to control, I think.
Hmm.
So for us at this size, it doesn't make sense to do.
Okay.
But maybe down the road.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, then wrapping up, I would like to ask, what advice would you give anybody starting out with a business in Germany, or any lessons learned, anything you'd like to share?
Sure. I would really say to don't be afraid to ask for help and support. People are really willing and ready, and often they just don't know that you need it. And I think we entrepreneurs and solopreneurs tend to really bootstrap everything and think, we have to keep control, we have to do it ourselves, and it's really hard to navigate a lot of this stuff in a country that's not your native country.
Mhm.
So try to find a trusted advisor who's a native German speaker. If your
Mhm.
German skills are
Mhm.
lacking like ours are, I mean, I always say that we have functional German,
Yeah.
but
That's
it's,
it. I'm
yeah,
in that boat
I'm
too.
still
Yeah.
using Google Translate
Yeah.
every day.
Yeah.
And I think especially when you're going through the bureaucratic
Yeah.
aspects of getting started, you really need somebody to help you, and your friends will, and your network will. Your neighbors,
Mhm.
you'd be surprised at how many people are happy to help, and they want to see you succeed. I think what I find is that I think somebody mentioned this on one of your previous podcasts that the locals tend to be, let's say, they have a healthy respect for people that are entrepreneurs because because they might be more risk adverse themselves. So
Mhm.
so when they see people like us sticking our necks out and just going forward, even if we're not sure,
Mhm.
they really respect that and they want to help. And it's
Mhm.
really a nice feeling to have that kind of appreciation because it is hard.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
not going to lie.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of tenacity and a lot of uh, y- yeah, grit.
Yeah.
But the payback has been great. I mean, I enjoyed my career, and I'm glad that I did that because, of course, it certainly facilitated a lot of what we're able to do now financially. But also from the people that I met and the experience that I got, all those skills.
Mhm.
You would think, how do you go from selling software to selling beer? Well, guess what? It's transferable. I'm working with people, and I always say that it's it's actually better. This is the first time I've sold a product in a long time where I can get immediate feedback
Yeah.
from the person who's actually tasted it.
Yeah.
Software like you could get feedback half a year later, and it's great. It's really nice to work with the public and to deal with your customers who give you the feedback and give you the support, and um, that's where the reward really is. I'm connecting locally at a level that I never had before. All these years, I was like half integrated,
Mhm.
and now I feel much more part of the community, the beer community, the craft beer community. We help each other out a
Mhm.
lot because it's small and we're all kind of bootstrapping, and
Mhm.
it's really a nice cooperation that we have and a community. So I would just say lean into anyone who can help you. That's the best thing you can do for yourself to get and just start, just get started. take one step forward. Because we were frozen for a very long time. And one expat said to me, all you have to do is start.
Wow.
And it was the simplest advice ever, but that was it. We were in this paralysis, like, oh,
Yeah.
what if this happens? And what if that happens? You can't know.
Yeah.
You just got to start.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Jen Canali, that is excellent advice. And I really enjoyed hearing your story. Thanks
Thank you.
for coming on the pod.
Thank you for having me. And I hope to see you in the tap room soon. And, bring your husband, bring your friends.
We will. We will.
It's a good little vibe we have in there. We call it the cozy pub.
I bet.
So it's really, really fun. We enjoy it. Thanks for having us. Appreciate it very much.
Thanks for listening. You can find this episode and all other episodes of the Germany Expat Business Show at my website at www.eleanormeyerhofer.com/podcast. That's www.eleanormeyerhofer.com/podcast. See you next time.